book of 1 Peter, when you're flowing out of chapter 4, at the end of chapter 4, Peter's writing about Christian suffering. Okay? Verse 16, yet if any man suffers a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on this behalf. And then in the first few verses of chapter 5, there are instructions for those Christians who serve as elders. They are to feed or shepherd the flock, verse number 2. Then we come to a series of instructions that we're going to study today, verses 5 through 9. And we're simply calling this lesson today, Our Walk with the Lord. Our walk with the Lord. And we're going to look at some specific instructions that Peter gave to the Christians then that would apply to us. If we're going to walk that walk in the proper way, here's how we need to do it. So I'm going to begin this morning by reading from verse 5 through verse 9. Verse 5, 1 Peter chapter 5. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. For God resisteth the proud, and giveth grace to the humble. Verse 6. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Whom resist, steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. That last part of verse 9 was a reminder to them, and it's a reminder to us. As we are facing challenges in life, you know what? We're not the only ones who are facing those kind of things. We're not the first and we're the last. That doesn't remove what we're facing. But we should not have a pity party and say, nobody has ever had what I've had and nobody's ever gone through what I have. Yes, they have. And so that gives us encouragement that we're not being singled out, that other people are facing the same thing. What I want to do this morning, I think it'll come across very easy. We're going to work through the text. We'll make reference to other verses. We'll read some other verses. We might quote some. But I want to focus here today. So if you got one of these little black or pink or green ribbons you can put there to hold your place, go ahead and do that. So we want to look, beginning in verse 5, at 5 key instructions for our walk with the Lord. And the thing you see in verse 6 is, humble yourselves. Okay? So the first thing in our walk with the Lord is be humble. A number of years ago, a sister in the Lord made an observation. She wasn't speaking for anybody but herself, but she expressed an idea. At that time, she was probably 35 years old. She didn't have as many miles on her as some of us did. But she made an observation, and I thought, she'd been a Christian for about 10 years at the time, and I thought, well, here's a woman again. She said, Brother Roger, it's hard to find a humble person. Well, there's a lot of wisdom in it. But the appeal here at the end of verse 5 is, here's the reality. God resists what kind of person? A proud person. That's right. But God elevates or lifts up the humble. And then in verse 6, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. There's an old saying that we have in English, the way up is down. The way to be lifted up by God is to be on your knees and humble yourself in God's sight. You see this, I love different types of sports. I enjoy watching them. But you see somebody hit a home run or somebody score a touchdown. Number one, that hurts.